Pakistan's grip on Balochistan is slipping as calls for autonomy intensify amid decades of exploitation and neglect. Balochistan is Pakistan's largest, most resource-rich province, yet its people remain impoverished, underserved and systematically repressed. The recent deadly bombing in Quetta, claimed by the Balochistan Liberation Army, underscores a fierce struggle for autonomy that has left Pakistan scrambling to maintain control. Here's a closer look at the simmering crisis and how Islamabad's policies have fueled Baloch resentment and demands for independence.
The attack on Quetta's railway station on November 9th, which claimed at least 26 lives and injured over 60, is just the latest in a series of violent incidents reflecting the worsening insurgency in Balochistan. The Balochistan Liberation Army, which has waged a campaign for independence for decades, swiftly claimed responsibility. The group stated that this suicide bombing was a direct strike against Pakistan's military presence, which many Baloch regard as an occupying force rather than a source of security.
The Pakistani army itself says 14 soldiers were killed and numerous were injured. The soldiers, a Pakistani soldier, is the super race in that country. They don't mingle with civilians. They don't travel in the same buggies and train stations where civilians go. So primarily the army was targeted, and they were the main hadaf of the VLA, I believe. And they are the ones who were targeted. So there was no civilians, I believe. It's just make-believe to make propaganda against such organizations that they're terrorists and they kill civilians. Because I think Pakistan army, the loss of innocent life, everybody condemns that. But do you think the Pakistani army is innocent? Committing an ongoing genocide in Balochistan for the last 70 years. It's by no means innocent. So the loss of Pakistani army lives, I don't think qualify as innocent people.
Balochistan's insurgency is rooted in long-standing demands for autonomy and deep resentment toward Islamabad's exploitative policies. Though rich in natural resources like gas, coal and minerals, the province's population remains among the poorest in Pakistan. Basic facilities like education and healthcare are lacking, with over 70% of the population living in poverty. The Baloch people say little benefit from the province's wealth, and activists accuse the government of keeping Balochistan underdeveloped to retain control.
Pakistan occupied Balochistan primarily to loot, plunder, and exploit its resources. It was never interested in the Baloch people or joining of two countries, as they put it. It's just a land to provide resources for the Pakistanis in general, but Pakistani generals in particular. From history till present, Balochistan is a land to loot, plunder, and the fat cats sitting in Pindi, they are reaping the rewards. So the Baloch have stood up all along against this injustice, and we've been appealing to the world to stand with us. But unfortunately, our appeal has always fallen on deaf ears. Now the Baloch have changed their tactic, or maybe the new generation have had enough. So their tactics are a bit more harsher than previously.
The Balochistan Liberation Army and other separatist groups have taken up arms, not only against the Pakistani state but also increasingly targeting Chinese nationals and infrastructure whom they see as complicit in the exploitation of their land. Meanwhile, Pakistan's response has been to intensify military operations, frequently resulting in widespread reports of abductions, torture, and the extrajudicial killings of Baloch activists, intellectuals, and student leaders. International human rights organizations have repeatedly flagged these abuses, and many view the militarized response as only further justifying Baloch demands for independence.
Pakistan military presence has always been there. Sometimes more, sometimes less. There's checkpoints on every kilometer, 2 kilometers in Balochistan, where these military men in their uniforms humiliate the young, the old, the elderly, women, children. They ridicule us and they humiliate us. So the new generation, I think, especially after Musharraf's time, it's been like 24 years since Musharraf's era, these youth have been born to witness this with their mothers, sisters, brothers, fathers, then the extrajudicial killings, the mutilated bodies, the mass graves. These kids have witnessed that. My generation, I did not witness that. In my generation, my father was put in prison, or Bhutto used to throw my tribesmen from the helicopters. It was stories, it was hearsay. I never saw anything with my eyes. These kids have been born in a society where their brothers are missing, their sisters are missing, their fathers' mutilated bodies are found. So they have seen a bit too much for such a young population.
Decades of unfulfilled promises and suppression have left Baloch groups with little faith in Islamabad's intentions. Chinese investment through the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor has added to these grievances, particularly in Gwadar, where the expansion has displaced many locals. While jobs and infrastructure improvements were promised, Baloch residents report being shut out of these economic benefits as the land is handed over to foreign investors. The resulting debt to China has fueled fears of further marginalization for the Baloch people. The insurgency in Balochistan has reached a critical point, driven by Islamabad's refusal to acknowledge Baloch demands for autonomy. For the Baloch, this is a fight for control over their land and future against a government more focused on resource extraction than the development of its people.